Delighted that everyone is joining us for another Unmuted. And today we want to touch on what is happening with kids in the virtual space. As so many of you know, this is something that I have worked on for years. How do we protect our children in the virtual space? How do we make certain that the protections that are in the physical world actually are there for them in the virtual space now that so much has moved online? And there was a new report that came out a couple of weeks ago, and this involved Meta and their AI rules. And what they are doing, I think, is unconscionable. They are allowing their AI chatbots to have sensual conversations with children. It is unbelievable. We would never allow this in the physical space. And Meta is using our children as a product. They're making money off of them. They are selling their information. So if you have a child or a grandchild, when they are online, they are the product. And in response to this report that came out, I have called for a congressional investigation into what Meta is doing, because it appears that they're aware of what is happening. My Kids Online Safety Act, which you all know, we've been on this for 5 years, trying to get this passed so that big tech has the responsibility to put the safety and well-being of children ahead of profits, so that they have to have safety by design and have tools so that parents and kids can protect themselves in the virtual space the same as they do in the physical space. Now, our guest today is someone that I have followed. He's done TV interviews, he's written op-eds, and has just taken this project on as really a passion because of his very personal story. And I want to welcome Brian Montgomery to Unmuted. And Brian, I just want to say thank you. You've had this personal safety tragedy, and you've made safety of our children really a mission set, keeping our kids safe in the virtual space. And your son, Walker, took his life, and I want you just to talk a little bit about Walker and why it is so important to you that you have taken on this cause.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, Walker was just a month over 16 years old, and what's unique about our story is Walker had really very little activity on the internet. He had an Instagram account. Walker was a well-adjusted 16-year-old, loved football, loved the outdoors. We live on a farm. He loved large equipment. I mean, we just are a really tight-knit family. My wife and I have a great family environment. 4 kids. Walker was the oldest son. We have a daughter that was older than Walker, but 2 boys, 2 girls, kind of your normal family, you know. And when Walker went to bed the night of November the 30th, what we assumed just a very normal night, and what we later found out that it was a normal night until midnight, when when some predator from across the world attacked Walker through social media. And the unique thing about Walker's story is, well, we thought Walker went to bed perfectly normal, and he did. It was a perfectly normal night, and it was normal for Walker, for us too. And in the course of 2 to 4 hours, Walker went from just going to bed on a normal night to having taken his own life. So the uniqueness of our story is that it's very scary for a parent to think that they're doing things right. We were raising our kids in church and great friend group. Go from that to our son being gone overnight, literally. And so there are, as you know, being involved in the space, there are tons of harms that are brought to our kids' doorstep through this technology. Some of those take longer to see the negative ramifications than others. This literally, quite literally, was an open door to a complete predator from around the world to access Walker and manipulate him in a way that we had no idea was possible.
And I know in your advocacy to protect children that you helped pass two laws in Mississippi. So, talk to me about what you've done there in your home state and those two laws.
Yeah, so we were involved in the first law. We passed them both at the same time. But Walker's Law is a law that makes sextortion a defined criminal act. So that's from the criminal side. You know, we have laws that protect children from being exploited, and so this was an additional law to protect kids in that way, that we could criminally charge people that committed the crime of sextortion. But then we also passed the Walker Montgomery Protecting Children Online Act, which is a similar type of legislation as the Kids Online Safety Act, in that it puts some guidelines, puts a duty of care on tech companies to keep their products safe. And I think that's the take home that we're asking for. We're not asking for tech to be parents. We're not asking them to do anything unreasonable. We're saying we need you to take a reasonable approach to keeping kids safe and making sure their product is safe. And we know it's not safe. And
That's right.
this protecting Walker Montgomery Protecting Children Online Act is intended to do that. It does a couple of things. It has a feature where it requires parents' permission, and I think that there's this question mark about providing information about our age to these companies, and the issue is they already know everything about us. I mean, they know every detail about us already. This is not new information, but we think it's important because it gives parents and kids a filter to have to go through to another step that automatically escalates the value of danger. And I know for us personally, we would have granted Walker permission to have Instagram, but if we would have been required to grant that permission and had that just warning sign, I think we would have taken it a lot more seriously. But for me, the secondary part of that legislation that's really important is putting that duty of care on these tech companies.
That's right.
The majority of that information, or the majority of the requirements there, are already illegal activities. They're already things that we
Mm-hmm.
would say, if you did just what you said in your intro, if it happened in the physical space, somebody would serve time in jail. But somehow, because it's happening through this virtual space, it's okay and it's protected, and that's unreasonable.
You know, it really is. And that's why we have worked so hard on the
Mm,
Kids Online Safety Act. And it passed the Senate last year 91-3. And we're hard at work to get it passed and to the president's desk
mm.
this year so that we can put those protections in place so that every child in the country has those. But you're exactly right. If you were to sell alcohol to a child, or drugs, or if you were to be a pedophile or a trafficker in the physical space, you would be apprehended. And we know that, but it's happening every single day in the virtual space. Why is it you think that parents are finally that they're working so hard to get these bills passed? And I know they're frustrated with the federal bill, but they're working overtime in the states. Talk a little bit about the parents that you're working with and their desire to see some laws put on the books.
Yeah, I mean, they're unbelievable people, and what's interesting, with the groups that we're a part of, that is our only way to access and make a difference, is through these
Yeah.
coalitions of groups, and so these parents have all experienced some traumatic loss, in their families. And there's something about that. I can speak for myself, and many of those families I think would say exactly the same thing. Is when you experience this type of excruciating pain, a couple of things happen. One, you don't want anybody else, even your worst enemy, to have to go through that. I mean, it's a turn in life that you go to bed one way and you wake up in a completely different world, and no individual on the planet wants to experience that. And so once you go through that, you realize that there's something off and there's something that needs to be done. And I think every parent would agree with that. That's in our group, and I think the other side of that, and what's why I appreciate the work that you do so much, is we don't have a voice apart from these groups that we can form together. We have no money, we have no resources apart from a few donations here and there. We just our time and effort working hard compared to the millions on top of millions of dollars that tech is spending in lobby groups. And we faced that here in Mississippi. When they found out we were writing a law, they went and camped out in Jackson at the Capitol at a time whenever I personally was sick and couldn't be there, and lobbied against the bill. And before you knew it, everybody had the opinion that the bill wouldn't pass, and if it did pass, it would be overturned in court. And now here we are. The Supreme Court had looked at it, and we know there's still some concerns about the bill. That's not. We're fine. We're going to fight until we can't fight anymore.
Yeah.
But the reality is we can't get that word out without help from people like you.
And your group that you started is Parents for Safe Online Spaces, correct?
Yes.
That's great. Well, I appreciate so much the advocacy that you're doing. I appreciate, too, your willingness to share what is a very painful personal story. But like so many, I'm so grateful for that willingness that you and your family have, and the effort that you are making to be certain that kids are safe in the virtual space and that awareness is raised about these issues. And thank you for being with our audience today. I really do appreciate it. And to the audience, thank you so much for following what we are doing as we work to protect our children and to make certain that they have the opportunity to grow up safe and secure, and that they are able to dream big dreams and have a way to make those dreams come true. Brian, thank you ever so much, and bless you and your family. And to our audience, keep up with us, blackburn.senate.gov.